tops. But now I'm going to show you how to test each of these minerals to find out their unique hardness. Okay, and we're going to use the Mohs test kit here. Okay, I'm just going to open it up. Okay, so when you open your kit up, you have, well, a little grey thing that goes over the top. You've got some little pieces in here: copper, glass, iron, a tiny magnifying glass, and what we call a scratch plate here. And you've also got several minerals in here that you can have a look at. So these are other minerals that go together to make up rocks. Don't worry about them right now. Let's just look at the granite. And I want you to test the granite out, because you see each one of these minerals has its own identity, its own sort of hardness. But together it mixes together and makes granite. So let's have a look. The very first thing I want you to do is organise your kit. So you've got copper on the top, then glass, then the iron nail. You need those to set up a set of tests to try and identify the hardness of your rock. You see, the very first thing we do is we take whatever mineral we're looking at, okay, so in this case quartz, and we need to see what it is harder than. Because you see, in your test kit here, if you look really close, I'm just going to zoom in here just a second. It's got this little order here of what is harder than what. Okay, now these are the little minerals that are in the test kit, and up here is what we're going to compare them to in hardness. The very first thing we're going to see is if a rock can be scratched with none other than your fingernail. If it can be scratched with your fingernail, which has a hardness rating of 2.5, I'll go a little closer here, 2.5, then it is very, very soft mineral, and the only one that pretty much is softer than that is talc. You'll know talc because ground up that is talcum powder. Then we go and test it against, well, they say penny, but what they're testing it against is copper. They used to use copper pennies. Is it harder than a penny? If it can be scratched by the copper, then it's softer than copper, and it's going to be one of these minerals down here. If it can't be scratched by the penny or by your fingernail, then it's harder than that, than a penny, which has a hardness rating of 3. So then we move up to the next one. Well, if it's harder than a penny, is it harder than glass, which has a hardness rating of 5.5? I know it's a little bit hard to see there. I'm going to see if I can zoom in there. It's a little bit hard even now. Yeah, there we go. So glass has a hardness rating of 5.5. We want to see next if the mineral can be scratched by glass or not. If it is scratched by glass, and then it has mineral, it's one of these guys here that are softer than glass. If it has a hardness rate, if it can't be scratched by glass, then it's got a hardness rating of above 5.5, and it's going to be one of these guys. Okay? Last but not least, if it cannot even be scratched by glass, it's going to be one of these really hard minerals up here. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that's focused. The last one we can test it against is steel in this kit. Steel has a hardness rating of 6.5. If it can be scratched by steel, then it's one of these guys down here. If it can't be scratched by steel, then it's one of these guys up here. They're pretty darn hard. The only thing that we can then test them against here is actually a diamond, which unfortunately we can't put in each one of our kits. So essentially with this test, you're only able to identify whether or not it has a hardness rating of up to 6.5 or above is how you would record it down. And I'm going to show you how to perform that test now, and you're going to be using that same test for your sedimentary and metamorphic rocks before we give them the smash test. So now let's have a look. How do we do this in practice? So you take your mineral. The very first thing we do is we see if it can be scratched by a fingernail. No, it was scratching my fingernail instead, therefore it has a hardness of greater than 2.5. Okay? So that rules out talc and gypsum because they're softer than 2.5. Next thing, I'd see if it can be scratched by copper. And just scratch it, just try and scratch it. Don't wreck the samples, please. Whatever you do, I want you to be really cautious when you do this. If I'm doing this, you can't see any scratching. Nope. So this is harder than copper. Put that down and let's try the next one. So copper has a hardness rating of 3, so it's harder than 3. Next one is glass, which has a hardness rating of 5.5. Nope, it's doing more harm to the glass than the glass is doing to it. So this has a hardness rating of above 5.5 because it can't be scratched by glass. The last thing we need to do is see if it can be scratched by our iron nail. Can it be scratched? What do you think? I think no. You can see the iron nails coming off on the mineral. So that means it's doing, whoops, let me just get down here, that's better. It's doing more harm to the nail than the nail is doing to it, so it has a hardness rating of above 6.5. Now, that means it's harder than everything in my test kit.